I'll put this recording back up on ESF Connect after this live chat so that other alumni who cannot join can also listen to this. Okay, the first one will be, can you tell us about your background? How and why did you end up teaching at South Island School?
Well, I went originally to music college with absolutely no intention of becoming a teacher. In fact, I tell anybody who listened that I was never, ever going to be a teacher, that I wanted to perform professionally for a living, and that, that's, I didn't see why I would spend all these years training to be a professional musician and then go back to teaching children. And then afterwards you come out of college, and of course you can't walk straight into a full-time paid professional performing job. It just doesn't happen. And one of the ways that I supported myself in those days is I started doing a bit of teaching instrumentally, and then fell into teaching primary school teachers how to teach the recorder at primary school. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed working with those young people. And the woman that ran the course said to me, why don't you do the course? Get yourself your PGCSE, and then if you ever do want to teach, then you can. And I thought, well, it's not a bad idea. We've all got student debts. Let's give this a try. But I didn't want to do primary teaching. I really enjoyed working with the university age students, the 18, 19-year-olds that I've been working with. So instead I found myself a course to do a further degree in education for secondary teaching, thinking I'll do this for a couple of years, clear off my student debts, and then I can go back to performing. I fell into my first job at a really good girls' school in the Welsh Valleys, where there was a really strong tradition of music. And just found myself completely sucked in to the joy of working with young people. And I was made head of department after 2 terms there, temporarily. And from that point in, I stopped being interested in playing myself anymore. I was just so enjoying working with those talented young people. So after 2 years, I went on and got a permanent head of music position in London, which was a bit of an eye-opener because it was a very different place. It was very much more difficult to make music there. And I did it for 2 years, and I was getting a little bit disillusioned with it because just the facilities, the opportunities weren't there. I wasn't able to work at quite such a high level as I had been able to do in Wales. And then a friend of mine came out to Hong Kong to coach the gymnastics team, and met some ESF students, and talked to one of the students' mothers, who said, well, your friend should consider the ESF if she really likes teaching, and she really likes teaching talented students and being able to do some really quite high level things with them, then the ESF would be a great place. And that was in January. And he came back and he told me about this, and I looked up the ESF, and it just so happened we were in recruitment season. And at that time there were 3 heads of music jobs going, and I had a week to make up my mind as whether I was going to apply. And it was South Island, Sharting College and West Island, all up for grabs at that time. And I thought, well, it can't hurt. Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. Now at this stage, I'd never even been to Asia, let alone Hong Kong. And I thought, okay, give it 2 years. If I like it, I can stay. If not, and I think from the day one that I walked into South Island School, I realised that this was what I wanted to be doing with my life. My very first lesson with my year 10s and 11s, I asked them to perform to me because it's a really good way of getting to know young musicians. And I think I sat there with my mouth open thinking, this is it. This is what I want to do. These are students who I really can benefit from working with me, and I can really benefit from working with them. And it's, still at that point, I had no idea that I'd be sitting here 18 years later. But there's been no reason to leave. I've had this constant stream of wonderful students to work with, and really been able to, the job satisfaction has been absolutely immense because of that. And I know I can see on the list of people who are online already, as some of those students are here today, which is absolutely lovely. So that's how I ended up here, and that's why I'm still here 18 years later on.
I see. Can you share with us any memorable moments at South Island School?
Oh, so many. I was thinking about this morning, knowing that I had to talk to you, I thought, how many concerts have I done at South Island School? And I think the answer must be more than 70. It's got to be. If I take 18 years, 3 or 4 concerts per year and plus some extra stuff. And I think each one of those events have been really memorable in their own way. If I had to pinpoint a few of them, in the early years, we used to do concerts in the summer term where the second half of the concert was a little mini musical. And the one we did, Jesus Christ Superstar, was really stands out for me as being, that was quite a special one. More recently, about 3 years ago, we did a joint art event. We had an evening on the theme of peace with a Michael Morpurgo drama, followed by some dance about inclusivity, and then Carl Jenkins' Mask of the Armed Man. And that was one of those events that it all just came right on the night. There was, you know, usually you spend your time at the events feeling quite nervous and is something going to go wrong? What will happen if it goes wrong? What will I do? And you sort of like this most of the time. But that one just flowed from beginning to end, and it was musically, for me, was incredibly special. But it's not just the things that we've done in South Island, because of the association with the ESF. Most of you will probably know that I've been responsible for organising many of the concerts, the ESF-wide concerts, over the last, 12 years or so. So I think out of those ones, the 50th anniversary concert stands out for me as being particularly special. We had a theme of celebration. We invited back quite a lot of alumni. We had 2 concertos with two alumni who've since gone on to music colleges to perform, and we had a piece composed that starred the students of the Sarah Rowe Jockey Centre, Stage Centre, by Paul Barker, who was the former head of music at Charting College and has also worked for me at South Island. Outside of music, some of my best memories come from the CAS weeks, the MAD weeks that we do, and working with different groups of students who I may not know very well from the classroom, but I've travelled to places like Tioman Island and done snorkeling. I've been to Laos and hiked, lots of service activities, building, and those stay with me because the amount of development you see in students over the course of a year, the course of a week, sorry. I mean, we have some students who come over really risk averse and timid and struggle with some of the physical activity. And by the end of the week, they're throwing themselves in deep pools. It's really lovely to see how they develop in confidence when they're taken out of their comfort zone. So lots of memories there. And I think one of the things that's driven me over the last 18 years is that it's all very well for me to have happy memories, but what we're trying to do is to leave other people with happy memories. And it makes me really pleased when people get in touch and say, oh, I remember this concert or this event, or do you remember what we did this year? And really, really pleased. And with leaving this year, so many people have got in touch and they've sent me photographs of past events and said, do you remember this? Videos. And a former tradition that the orchestra used to have before we went on stage, they all used to play spontaneously, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And recently, somebody who's been gone for over 10 years sent me the link to that on YouTube again, saying, this is what I remember, just fun.
That's really nice. One last question, and then I'll leave it to the participants. What's the common misconception from students about you?
Yeah, I have a constant battle with students because actually my first study instrument, and not a lot of people, I try not to disclose this too much, but I actually graduated from college on the recorder. The students think this is hilarious. They have images of plastic colourful recorders that they used to play in primary school. And there's a moment of disbelief when I tell people that yes, I've got a degree in playing the recorder. And then there's generally a lot of taking the mick. And over the years, I've really had to fight hard for the reputation of the recorder. I have to keep playing people Vivaldi concertos and going, look, this is what we do. So I guess that's the biggest misconception. So half the time, if I'm not feeling up for the battle, I just tell people I'm a cellist, which I am, but that's not what I graduated on.
Cool. Okay, do other people have any questions needed for Miss Debra Jones?
they're not usually this shy, if I know this lot of people who've signed on.
Hi,
It's
Ms.
being
Jones.
recorded.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me? Hi.
Hey, Ms. Jones.
Hello. Hugo, I recognise you without the hair. Only worked out who you are.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on my camera. How do this? Oops. I just wanted to ask you where you were going. I think everyone pretty much knows where you're going, but I don't really know. I just want to know where you're going and what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm off to the Middle East. I'm going to a British school in Abu Dhabi called Brighton College. And there's a group of these schools. So it's a bit like being with the ESF. There'll be other music teachers out there in other Brighton College schools, which is really good. Because one of the things I've enjoyed about the ESF is having that network of the 17 music teachers, because it means you can do so much with all that help. So yeah, I mean, why the Middle East? It actually wasn't my first choice. Those of you who know my sons, and I know a lot of you do, my eldest son is just finishing his GCSEs, or not finishing his GCSEs, as the case may be, with the situation this year. But he's finishing year 11, and he really, really wants to do A-levels because he knows he wants to do 3 humanities. So he's actually going to go back to my old college in the UK and study there. And I just didn't want to be a 13-hour plane ride away from him. I wanted to be able to see him more often than just the holidays. So that got me thinking. And it was a good time in the educational stages of my other 2 children as well to make that move. And I think if I'd have left it much longer, you'd have probably had to push me out the door at the age of 63 or something. So I think we just all came to the point where we fancied a new adventure, and I wanted to be close to Zach. So I originally started looking in Europe, and there are some great schools in Europe, but actually for me, with one salary for one family, it's financially that it would have been really, really hard. So my next step was just a little bit further away in the Middle East, and there are some wonderful schools there. So I'm really pleased with the school that I'm going to. The department I'm moving into, the other 2 music teachers are both deputy heads of the school. So no pressure there at all. But it does mean that the music should be really valued as a subject within the school. So I'm really happy about that. So that's where I'm off to, Abu Dhabi. If any of you are ever passing through, just let me know. Good to see you, Sophia. Is it not the middle of the night there?
It is 1 a.m. right now, but
I'm
I'm a night shift nurse, so it's my schedule.
Ah, of course.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on qualifying. Anybody else want to talk to me?
Yeah, so you did speak about the perceptions of the recorder in Hong Kong. What do you think it's going to be like in your new school? Are you gonna remain as shy about your true passion, and you know, is there the same stigma of the recorder over there? Do you think?
Possibly. I do know that the head of primary music out there is a tuba player, so I feel like I've got some solidarity for unusual instruments. Maybe. I mean, yeah. If I just say I'm a recorder and cellist together, I might get away with this. But I did last year finally get to play professionally in Hong Kong on the recorder, because I got an invitation from the City Chamber Orchestra. They were doing a live soundtrack to a showing of the 3rd Harry Potter movie, The Prisoner of Azkaban. And a lot of the music in that is Renaissance inspired. So there are 2 recorders required. I was one of only 2 recorder players they could find in Hong Kong. So I got invited to go and play, it was amazing to be back on a professional stage with professional musicians and a very scary professional conductor. But it's actually really good for my own practice as well, because it's been a long time since I worked with a professional conductor. So I was watching him like a hawk. I was just like, what can I pick up from you and take back to school? But it was hugely fun. And that's my sole professional recorder moment in about the last 14 years. So.
And in that time, have you seen the sort of early music scene in Hong Kong change since you arrived? Have you seen it develop at all?
No, I'm sorry, not particularly. It still is not hugely popular here in Hong Kong. Now, there is an increasingly thriving art scene. I remember when I first came in 2002, I thought, having come from London as well, I thought, oh, this is not, it's not as exciting place to be arts as London is, but it has really blossomed over these 18 years. And we've got the world's officially best orchestra in the world at the moment, because the Hong Kong Phil won that title this year from the Gramophone magazine, and absolutely well deserved. So it has really got better, and you can entice a lot of Hong Kong people to go and listen to classical music at these concerts. And what I really like seeing is when you go, it's the families with the young children who are supporting concerts, and they are exposing their children to this music. There is very much less early music, and when it does come into town, when you go, it is less well attended. I think, you know, we've got this far, and so many people will go and hear Mozart and Haydn and Beethoven. You know, maybe in a few years' time that will have expanded out, and you know, the less common styles will start to enjoy a better audience. Go on, Gabriel.
Hi, Debs.
Hey.
Moving ahead, would you be considering to perform more often when you get to Abu Dhabi, and perhaps as a get to know the city kind of thing?
I would love to. I've got the bug again now, actually. It's hard when you're in a school. It does tend to consume a lot of your time. And I've got 3 kids at home as well, so I don't have massive amounts of time for my own personal practice. So when I took on the Prisoner of Azkaban, I really had to make time to make sure I was up to a professional standard, because there was no way I was going to get on that stage and let myself down. It was hours of work, but I really enjoyed doing it. I would really like to do more of it now. I think in the next year or so, I'm really going to have to concentrate on my new department. It's a new syllabus, it's A-levels, and it's British curriculum lower down the school. It's a new environment. Expectations will be different. So I don't see it happening straight away. However, the school has one of the best auditoriums in Abu Dhabi, and they rent it out publicly for arts groups to use. So hopefully via that route, I'll get to meet lots of people who are regularly performing, and that could be a way in eventually when I found that space to be able to do this. Can I just say hello to Priyanshi, because she's just messaged me, and Priyanshi, her camera and mic aren't really working. So Priyanshi is in my tutor group this year, and thank you for coming online. Priyanshi, I appreciate you being here. Does anybody else want to know anything?
I'm not sure if anyone actually is going to find a way to do this, but how can we find you after, for the benefits of other people here, how may we find you after you leave Hong Kong?
This is true. There's always my Facebook page. That's the Facebook page from South Island School Music Department is still running. I'm not shutting it down. I'm leaving it archived so that people can still access all those photographs from years and years of concerts. I think that Facebook page goes back to 2009. So there is an absolute wealth of photos and videos of ex-students there for people if they want to access them there, and you will still be able to message me via that one. I'm sure if you look on the Brighton College website, my up-to-date email address professionally will be there as well. So, and I always love hearing from people. It's great. It's great for people to just let me know what they're doing. And I know that many of my students haven't gone into music, and we've got Gabriel here is an exception. He's one of the ones that has. But that's not why I've done this job, is because if I only did this for the students who went into music ultimately, then that would be a very small selection of students. So it's been really great, particularly over the last couple of weeks when people know that I'm leaving. I've managed to catch up with people who are doctors, someone who's working in promotions, software technicians, just people who enjoyed doing music when they were at school and sometimes still enjoying doing now, but not as a profession. So please, people, do stay in touch. Do let me know what you're getting up to these days. It's just really gratifying. And you know, so the alumni of South Island School who perhaps see this on video later, we love seeing you in the school as well. Just one thing I would say is, if you're coming in, please do let us know first, because I find it really disappointing when somebody who I really want to talk to walks into my classroom at the same time as a class full of year sevens, and I really want to give that alumni some time, the time that they deserve, and I've got 28 year sevens sat in front of me. So, you know, teachers love to hear from you. Just let people know that you're coming so that they can make sure that they're available for you.
I have a question, Ms. Jones.
Yes.
So throughout the years you've been teaching at South Island, what are the biggest changes you've seen in the music department? And when you leave, what is your biggest wish for the music department?
Okay. Well, the first massive change, when I first arrived, for those of you who are familiar with the campus as it is now, the atrium is built on the site of what was some concrete steps. And then at the back of those concrete steps, there was, well, best described as a shed, and that was the music department. It was very, very poor, but at the time they were building the D block. So 1 year in, we finally got our specialist facilities. Now, world has moved on, and 17 years on, those music facilities, we've grown out of them. And I'm pleased to say that we've grown out of them. I mean, orchestra hardly fits into D62 anymore. You know, if those of you who know the place, if you can imagine that on a Friday afternoon, we cram 55 students in there with instruments, it's tight, it's really tight. So I think for my biggest wish now for the music department in South Island is, hopefully, fingers crossed, over the next couple of years, that they'll be able to look at the accommodation and sort of completely rethink, because we're too big. We have grown too much, and we now don't really fit our space, and that's what we need moving forward, so that the expansion can continue and we can take more and more students in rehearsals.
Any more questions? If there's no more questions, let's end the live chat with the last question from me. Like, what would you say to the graduating students?
To the graduating students, all of them, without exception, I would say, make sure whatever you do from now on, you carry on finding creative outlets. It doesn't have to be music, doesn't have to be drama, whatever it is that inspires you to be creative. Don't let that aspect of your life disappear just because you're not doing CAS anymore. I think it's really important. I think what we've seen over the last 4 months, when various countries have been under lockdown, we've seen this resurgence of people doing creative things at home, whether that's painting or whether it's performing music or dances, doing videos. A lot of people have turned to creative pursuits for their sort of emotional well-being. And it's been really, really lovely to see that people have found that as therapeutic in difficult circumstances. So I would encourage everybody to just find some way of being creative through the rest of your life. And if that's playing an instrument, then whew, I've done my job, fantastic. The other thing I would say is that the creative arts industries right now are really suffering. The artists out there, the musicians, the theatre performers, really suffering under the conditions of today. So when theatres and concert halls start to open up again, I would just like to encourage everybody to go and see some arts, whatever you're interested in. Just go and be supporters of these industries, because otherwise we are going to lose them.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed seeing you. Thank you so much for being online.
Cheers, Debs. See you soon.
I'll see you soon. Yes.
Yeah. Take care.
Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.